One thing clear, what you think makes you valuable to a man probably isn't what actually does. It's a dangerous lie we've been sold. Society tells women to focus on looking perfect, being agreeable, always available, and never too much. But here's the truth that no one is telling you. Men don't stay for beauty. They stay for what beauty can't give them. A high-value woman is not the loudest in the room, nor is she the one who chases validation. She's the one who walks in silence, yet her energy speaks volumes. Men notice her, not because she demands attention, but because her presence commands it. And here's the twist. Most women spend their entire lives chasing the wrong traits, trying to impress, trying to be chosen, trying to fit his mold, when in reality the women who choose themselves first are the ones who naturally become high value in his eyes. In this video, I'm not going to give you recycled advice about being nice or playing hard to get. You're going to learn the real psychology, the raw, uncomfortable truth about what men deeply crave, but will rarely say out loud. Because when you understand this secret, you stop chasing men who aren't ready, and you start becoming the woman a grown man respects, values, and fights to keep. Stay with me until the end, because what you discover today might just flip your entire dating life and your self-worth upside down in the best way possible. Let's begin. Emotional maturity is the quiet superpower that separates a high-value woman from the rest. It's not about being emotionless or cold. It's about knowing how to feel deeply without letting those feelings control you. Men deeply respect women who can handle their emotions with grace, who don't spiral, who don't let temporary feelings destroy permanent connections. Because here's what most people never realize: when a woman loses control over her emotions, she's no longer in control of how she's perceived, and perception is everything when it comes to value. A man will test you whether he realizes it or not. He will push buttons, he will have moments where he withdraws, becomes distant, or doesn't give you the reaction you were hoping for. And in those moments, most women chase, most women panic, most women over-explain, overreact, or overcompensate. But a high-value woman pauses, she breathes. She doesn't beg for reassurance because she carries her own self-assurance. She understands that her emotions are hers to regulate. She refuses to let external situations dictate her internal peace. Men notice this. When a woman stays grounded in her emotions, she becomes incredibly magnetic. Why? Because emotional maturity is rare. In a world where most people are reactive, the woman who stays calm, patient, and intentional is unforgettable. Men realize that they can trust her not just with their hearts, but with their flaws, their bad days, and their imperfections. She doesn't weaponize his vulnerability. She doesn't use emotional manipulation to get her way. She listens, she speaks when needed. She knows the power of silence, and she sets boundaries without turning cold. A woman with emotional maturity doesn't play games, but she doesn't tolerate them either. She's soft, but she's not a doormat. She can express her needs without demanding them. She can walk away with grace if those needs aren't met, not to punish him, but because she values her own peace more than any potential relationship. And that is a level of self-respect that men cannot ignore. When a man meets a woman like this, he instantly feels a different energy. It's not the energy of desperation or competition. It's the energy of security. Emotional maturity shows a man that this woman knows who she is and where she's going. She doesn't need to control him because she already controls her own world. She's not looking for a man to complete her. She's looking for someone who can walk beside her. And men are drawn to that challenge, that depth, that undeniable presence. Even when conflict arises, a high-value woman approaches it differently. She doesn't escalate, she diffuses. She doesn't throw insults, she seeks clarity. She's able to step outside the heat of the moment and look at the bigger picture. She knows when to speak, when to listen, and when to let silence do the talking. And that emotional balance makes her feel safe to a man, not just safe in the relationship, but safe to fully be himself. The truth is, emotional maturity is what separates women who are temporarily entertaining from women who are permanently unfulfilled. Beauty can capture attention, but emotional maturity keeps it. And the woman who can love without losing herself, who can stay calm in the storm, and who can honor both her feelings and her standards, that's the woman who commands lasting respect. This isn't about being perfect. It's about practicing self-awareness, emotional regulation, and compassionate communication. And when you embody this, you stop wondering if you're good enough for him. Instead, you naturally attract men who are good enough for you. That's the quiet power of emotional maturity. And that's why it's the first and most essential trait of a high-value woman. Feminine confidence is not about walking into a room and announcing yourself. It's about the quiet, effortless energy that follows you when you walk in. It's not loud. It's not boastful. It's the calm certainty that says, I know who I am and I like who I am, without needing anyone to confirm it. This is the kind of confidence that pulls a man in because it feels real, it feels grounded, and it feels safe. So many women think they need to prove their worth by being overly independent, overly aggressive, or by showing they don't need a man. But in doing that, they lose touch with the soft magnetic power of true feminine confidence. The high-value woman understands the balance. She's confident, but she's not arrogant. She's aware of her worth, but she doesn't need to parade it. She can receive compliments with grace instead of brushing them off or overhyping herself. When a man is around her, he feels her presence. He feels that she's comfortable in her skin, that she's not performing, not pretending, and not competing. She embraces her femininity, not as a weapon, but as a natural part of who she is. She can be soft without feeling weak. She can be open without being naive. She can be kind without being a pushover. There's something captivating about a woman who doesn't shrink herself, but also doesn't need to overshadow anyone else. She doesn't need to prove she's the smartest, the prettiest, or the most accomplished person in the room. She's simply herself, and that's more than enough. Feminine confidence whispers, it doesn't scream. It's in the way she walks, the way she makes eye contact, the way she carries herself without apology. It's in the way she trusts her decisions, even when others question them. It's in the way she chooses to love herself out loud but without arrogance. What makes this trait so irresistible is that it's not a competition. Arrogance is often rooted in insecurity. It tries to convince everyone of its worth, because deep down it's not sure of it. Feminine confidence is the opposite. It doesn't need to be loud because it already knows. The high-value woman doesn't chase validation, but she doesn't reject kindness either. She can hold space for a man to lead, but she can also lead when needed. She doesn't shrink her dreams for anyone, but she also doesn't belittle someone else's journey. This kind of confidence gives off an energy that men crave, but rarely find. It tells him that this woman will not tolerate being treated as an option, but she won't make him feel small either. She will hold him accountable, but she won't control him. She knows when to stand her ground and when to bend without breaking. Her confidence is flexible. It's not about domination. It's about self-assuredness. And men feel safe around that. They feel safe to be themselves, safe to show their imperfections, and safe to grow alongside her. The feminine confidence of a high-value woman is subtle but undeniable. It's in the way she speaks, direct but not harsh. It's in the way she holds herself, proud but not arrogant. It's in the way she loves, not fearfully, not desperately, but fully, because she knows that if something isn't for her, she will let it go without losing herself. A high-value woman doesn't compete with other women. She knows her lane. She supports other women. She knows that her light doesn't dim just because someone else is shining. That is what makes her unforgettable. She becomes the woman a man can't easily replace, not because she was the loudest or the most demanding, but because her quiet feminine confidence left a mark on his soul. There is nothing more powerful, more attractive, and more unforgettable than a woman who knows her worth and refuses to bargain with it. Unshakable self-worth is the core of a high-value woman. It's not something she performs. It's something she lives. It shows up in the smallest decisions, in the way she carries herself, in the way she allows herself to be treated, and in the way she gracefully walks away from what doesn't honor her. She is not interested in convincing anyone to see her value because she already sees it herself. And that is where her power lives. The truth is, most people chase love, trying to earn it. They bend, they mold, they tolerate things they shouldn't, just to keep someone close. But the high-value woman knows she doesn't have to sacrifice her dignity to be loved. She never places her worth in someone's hands. She doesn't need a relationship to validate her existence. She doesn't beg, she doesn't chase, and she doesn't try to prove why she's worthy of staying. Her self-worth is not a negotiation, it's a standard. When a man meets a woman like this, it shakes him. Why? Because he realizes she is not afraid of losing him. She is not driven by fear of abandonment. She is driven by love, but that love starts with herself. This doesn't mean she's cold or unavailable. On the contrary, she is warm, loving, and fully capable of connection. But she knows the difference between fighting for a relationship and fighting for someone who isn't fighting for her. She knows when to stay, when to communicate, and when to let go. A woman with unshakable self-worth doesn't measure her value by how much attention she gets. She's not addicted to being chosen. She chooses herself every single day, whether someone else does or not. She doesn't wait to be picked. She is the prize, and she lives that truth. And this energy is rare. It's magnetic. It draws in high-quality people and repels the ones who can't meet her where she stands. Her self-worth shows in the way she speaks to herself, in the boundaries she sets, and in the relationships she chooses to invest in. She's not afraid to say no. She's not afraid to walk away. She's not afraid to demand more, not from entitlement, but from a place of deep self-respect. She does not settle for bare minimum effort, and she doesn't shrink her needs to keep peace. She knows she can handle silence. She can handle distance. She can handle being alone, because she never feels empty in her own company. When she's with a man, she doesn't rely on him to fill her. She shares her life with him, but she never hands over the pen that writes her story. She knows her worth, whether she's in a relationship or not. And this is the reason she stands out. Because most people are still searching for someone else to validate their importance. But she's already found it within herself. Men are drawn to this. They may not always be able to explain why, but they feel it. They feel safe, knowing this woman will never lose herself for anyone. They know she's loyal, but not to a fault. They know she's loving, but not desperate. They know that if they can't match her energy, she will simply remove herself, without bitterness, without gain. Unshakable self-worth sets her apart, because it makes her rare. It makes her the woman a man respects deeply. It makes her the woman who doesn't have to prove anything, because her presence already does. And that's why, when she loves, her love is a gift, not a transaction. There is a profound difference between surface-level attraction and deep emotional connection. A man can find many women beautiful, but what keeps his mind engaged and his heart invested is a woman who offers both intelligence and emotional depth. It's the conversations that challenge him, the way she sees the world, the way she holds space for complex emotions. That's what makes her unforgettable. A high-value woman knows this. She doesn't rely solely on appearance, because she understands that beauty alone fades in a man's memory. What truly lasts is the way she makes him think and the way she makes him feel. Intelligence isn't just about knowing facts or having degrees. It's about being curious, aware, and intentional. It's about how she processes life, how she communicates, how she asks questions that pull him out of autopilot. A woman with this kind of intelligence doesn't just exist. She actively participates in life. She's not afraid to form her own opinions. She's not afraid to challenge his, and she's not intimidated by differences. She thrives on learning, growing, and exchanging ideas. She can talk about love, about purpose, about the deeper layers of life, and men crave that more than they admit. When a man meets a woman with intelligence and emotional depth, he feels seen in a way he rarely experiences. She's not just listening to his words, she's hearing his soul. She doesn't rush to fill silence because she's comfortable in it. She doesn't need constant entertainment because she knows how to find meaning in the little things. She has the ability to connect beyond the surface, to understand his moods, his fears, his doubts, sometimes even before he can articulate them himself. This kind of connection creates a bond that physical attraction alone can never replace. Emotional depth is where her power becomes undeniable. She can sit with uncomfortable emotions without running. She can have hard conversations without falling apart. She can show empathy without losing herself in someone else's pain. She doesn't fear emotional complexity, she embraces it. She knows that real connection comes from vulnerability, not perfection. And because of this, she creates a safe emotional space where a man feels like he can finally stop performing. With her, he doesn't need to be the strongest, the smartest, or the most composed version of himself. He can simply be human. What's rare about this type of woman is that she combines strength with softness, logic with intuition, and curiosity with patience. She's not interested in shallow games or surface-level relationships. She wants substance. She wants depth. And men can feel that immediately. She's not impressed by empty words or grand gestures that lack meaning. She's impressed by integrity, by emotional availability, by someone who's willing to go deep with her, not just exist beside her. When a woman carries intelligence and emotional depth, she becomes the woman a man can't easily replace. He may meet others who are physically attractive, but the way she stimulates his mind and nourishes his soul is something he won't find just anywhere. She becomes his safe place, his intellectual equal, and his emotional partner. She's not just someone to spend time with, she's someone who changes the way he thinks, the way he loves, the way he shows up in life. This is why men crave more than beauty. They crave a woman who can challenge them, who can hold them emotionally, who can make them think and feel in ways they never have before. And when a woman embodies this intelligence and depth, she naturally attracts a man who values more than what's on the surface. She attracts a man who is ready to build something real, something lasting, something rare. There's something incredibly magnetic about a woman who knows exactly where her boundaries are and isn't afraid to honor them. Boundaries aren't walls that keep people out. They're doors that allow the right people in and keep the wrong ones out. A high-value woman doesn't just set boundaries, she lives them. She doesn't explain them to gain approval, and she doesn't apologize for them to seem polite. She understands that her boundaries are not punishments. They are the ultimate expression of self-love and self-respect. What makes boundaries so attractive to a man is that they immediately communicate value. When a woman clearly shows what she will and will not accept, she signals that she knows her worth. She doesn't need to scream it. She shows it in her calm refusal to tolerate behaviors that don't align with her standards. She doesn't overextend herself to be liked. She doesn't compromise her peace to keep someone interested. She doesn't beg for attention or chase for closure. She knows that anything she has to beg for will never be right for her. Men pay attention to this, even when they test her limits, because they will, consciously or unconsciously. How she responds teaches them how to treat her. If she folds, if she gives in just to avoid conflict, they see that. But if she stands firm, not in anger, but in calm certainty, she immediately earns their respect. A woman's boundaries are like a blueprint. They guide people on how to treat her, and a high-value woman's blueprint is crystal clear. What's magnetic is that she doesn't need to explain or prove why she has these standards. She simply enforces them. If a man crosses a line, she doesn't react with rage or desperation. She steps back. She removes access. She understands that walking away from disrespect is not a loss. It's a win. It's a declaration that her self-worth is not negotiable, and that silent strength is unforgettable. A woman with boundaries teaches men that not everyone will tolerate their half-effort. She teaches them that she's not afraid of being alone. She's not afraid of the silence that comes when you stop entertaining what no longer serves you. And that's what makes her so powerful, because most people are afraid to lose connection. But she would rather lose someone than lose herself. Her boundaries show up in simple moments. She's not afraid to say no when she's uncomfortable. She doesn't overcommit to please people. She doesn't allow repeated disrespect disguised as jokes. She doesn't stay in situations where she feels emotionally neglected. She doesn't make excuses for bad behavior. And she certainly doesn't tolerate emotional inconsistency. Her life is peaceful because her boundaries protect it. What's truly attractive is that her boundaries are not rigid, they're healthy. She can love deeply and still say this is not okay with me. She can forgive, but she doesn't forget patterns. She gives second chances, but not unlimited ones. She communicates her needs without fear, and if those needs are consistently dismissed, she has the courage to leave without causing drama. Men are drawn to this because it feels stable. It feels safe. A woman with boundaries won't suddenly shift her standards out of desperation. She won't lose herself in a man. She brings structure, clarity, and consistency. And whether men admit it or not, they respect that. They crave that. Because in a world full of blurred lines, she becomes the woman who knows exactly where she stands. And here's the quiet truth. When you have strong, healthy boundaries, you don't need to chase anyone. The right man will naturally step up. The wrong ones will remove themselves. Boundaries do the filtering for you. They make you magnetic because they prove you value yourself. And nothing is more attractive than a woman who refuses to accept less than she deserves. Stepping fully into your high-value power is not about becoming someone else. It's about returning to the version of you that's always been there. The version that never needed to beg for love. The version that never had to shrink to be accepted. The version that knew her worth before the world convinced her to doubt it. This journey isn't about chasing a label. It's about becoming deeply rooted in yourself. So no man, no rejection, no mistake can shake your foundation. The truth is, high value isn't something you perform. It's something you embody. It's in the decisions you make when no one is watching. It's in how quickly you remove yourself from situations that drain you. It's in how fiercely you protect your peace. It's in the way you talk to yourself when life gets heavy. You step into your power by no longer waiting for someone else to validate you. You decide that your value is not on trial. And you stop offering discounts to people who can't afford your energy. Being high value doesn't mean being perfect. It means being honest with yourself. It means forgiving yourself for the times you settle. It means choosing to grow instead of sitting in cycles that you've outgrown. It's in the way you carry yourself after heartbreak. It's in the way you set boundaries even when it's uncomfortable. It's in the way you choose to love yourself loudly, unapologetically, and without condition. What makes you powerful is not that you never feel fear, but that you move forward anyway. It's not that you never get hurt. It's that you know how to heal without losing your softness. Stepping into your high-value power means you stop waiting to be chosen. You choose yourself fully and completely, and you allow people to meet you at that level, or you gracefully walk away from those who can't. When you step into this version of yourself, you start to notice that you attract different energy. Men approach you different. They sense that you cannot be manipulated. They feel that you are not impressed by bare minimum effort. They understand that you require emotional consistency, not grand, but fleeting gesture. And the ones who are not ready for that will naturally fall away, not because you pushed them, but because your energy no longer welcomes them. Your power is not in proving your worth. It's in knowing your worth so deeply that you don't argue with anyone who doesn't see it. You don't chase clarity from people who made you feel confused. You don't fight for places where you constantly feel like you don't belong. You simply remove yourself, not out of spite, but out of deep, grounded self-respect. There's a peace that comes with stepping into your high-value self. You no longer force connections. You no longer hold on to situations that disturb your spirit. You no longer shrink your voice to keep others comfortable. You make space for people who are emotionally available, who bring effort without being asked, who respect your boundaries because they respect you. And most importantly, you make space for yourself to rest, to grow, to simply be. Stepping fully into your high-value power is a decision you make every day. It's in your standards, your patience, your ability to choose peace over drama, and your commitment to living in alignment with your worth. You don't need to be perfect to be powerful. You just need to be honest, intentional, and willing to walk away from what no longer serves you. When you embody this, you no longer wonder, what do men want? Because you realize the right man will want exactly what you've become. A woman who knows her worth, who loves herself deeply, and who walks through life as the prize she always was.